recording. All right, I'm going to share my
This is
screen.
the best mugs.
A collection to
Oh, I
ease the soul.
What the heck?
What the heck? Okay, so today we're going to finish chapter 7. You're going to have a quiz tomorrow, open just like every week, 4 p.m., closes on Sunday at midnight. Okay? All right. There is no midterm. I already said this. There's an exam next week. Okay. All right. So I'd like to ask a question about split cable market tests. And basically what they're doing is the advertisers work with cable companies and stores. So they say, okay, stores, what are you selling? Cable companies, what can we air? How can we air it? When can we air it? Where can we air it? Then they keep track of what's sold and they see how effective the ads are. This does not surprise you, but I want you to know that they're called split cable market tests. And what's the big deal about this? It's because this is a part of social psychology. Yeah, it's advertising, it's business, but this is where social psychology comes into play. Understanding social influence, getting people to do what you want them to do. We also have public health campaigns. A meta-analysis means, all that means is they've taken several different studies and compiled them into one factor, like one common denominator. And in this case, they were looking at substance use among youths. And what they found was that it's pretty encouraging. As in, like, the ads are working. We also know that television and radio ads are better than print ads because, right. So many take emotional approach for attitude change. When they show that there's little difference between brands, we want to associate a product with excitement, youth, sexual attraction. But again, when the attitudes are more cognitively based, meaning perhaps they're more personally relevant, then they'll use logical, fact-based arguments. So it says no, might use peripheral route. I don't know what that means. The peripheral, because we know what the peripheral route is, and that's using secondary signals, things that are related. It's not getting to the central root, the center of the argument. So it's saying that, I'm sorry. Forgive me. It's saying, is it personally relevant? Yes. Then you want to use the central root. If it's not, then you use the peripheral root. That's what they're saying. Okay. But the peripheral roots do not lead to lasting change. And that's why it's saying attitudes are more cognitively based, meaning they're more logically fact-based, right? And the goal is to make the product personally relevant, essentially. All right. This reminds me, like, I actually wanted to make a statement. So many of us have Facebook accounts, and I just want to warn everybody that the next month, people are going to get really mean. And they're just going to come at you. Well, because of the election.
Oh.
People are going to get really, really mean. And we have to try not to take it personally. And it's frustrating. But, I mean, simply all that I had done was I had shared a post that my friend had made. And then a bunch of people shared that post off of mine. And then I had just pasted underneath it a Google search of something. And I was called an uneducated liberal F. Just because I shared, like, all these different news sources, because what had happened is Trump had made the tweet saying, we're not going to give any aid. We're going to wait till after the election when I win, and yada, 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 yada. And my friend posted something that said something to the effect of, why would he, like, withhold aid as, like, this dangling carrot to vote for him? Like, why would he use that as leverage or something, and not support, all cities, not just the Republican run ones, right? So people were saying that's fake. And all that I had done was posted a Google search of his tweet that he had taken down. And that's what I was called. So I didn't respond to it. I'm not going to respond to it. But my point is this. People are going to get mean the next month, okay? But we got each other. Just hang on. All right. Now, subliminal messages, right? Is it a form of mind control? There's no evidence that the types of subliminal messages encountered in everyday life have any influence on people's behavior. What are they? Words or pictures that are not consciously perceived, but may nevertheless influence people's judgments, attitudes, and behavior. So in one study, they had people uh, 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 they examined their preference for a drink, right? So they were watching something, and then they flashed words while they were watching a video. And some people saw the word or words Lipton ice, and others saw nonsense words. So then they asked them after they watched the video, would you like something to drink? Would you like Lipton ice or Dutch mineral water? And what they found was that they were thirsty. They chose Lipton ice significantly more often. The thing is, it doesn't last, right? Also, in order for it to be, quote, effective, right, there has to be the correct illumination of the room. There has to be no distractions. You have to be the right distance from the screen. All these things have to be controlled for, right? And again, it doesn't actually last, and it doesn't get people to counter what they actually believe, what they actually value, or representations of their personality. Advertisements transmit cultural stereotypes in their words, images, and subtly linking products with desired images. Advertisements can also reinforce and perpetuate stereotypical ways of thinking about social groups, right? So when it comes to, well, let me read the last one. Advertising both reflects and shapes the biases present in our society, as demonstrated by the divergent responses to a 2013 Cheerios ad featuring an interracial family, and it came this big uproar, right? So what it did is it drew attention to, racism in America, right? And so the same thing. Remember what was it called, Peloton, Pella something? That one ad where the wife got a gift of a exercise.
Oh, the Peloton bike. Yeah.
Yeah, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's so sexist. That's so sexist," right? And then other people were like, "Well, that's what she wanted. That's what she liked. Something. Why wouldn't you give someone something they want?" And so it's very sensitive, right? But it does highlight where our culture is by their responses to it. Like, for example, when you watch Tide commercials, I mean, you always see women doing the laundry, right? And when they show, like Dawn or any kind of cleaning product or any kind of thing that has to do with raising a family, they have the man, the father, looking stupid, right? The woman's sick. She's got the mother's sick and she has to take Theraflu or something, right? So she's in bed for the day and she comes out after taking Theraflu. She feels much better and she goes to the kitchen. The kitchen's on fire. The kids are half naked. There's a big mess, all these things. And there's the man like, I can't do anything. So that's maintaining the stereotype that men are just incapable of doing household items, right? Bella, you're muted.
When I was in welding for CV Tech, like, it's crazy how, like, I don't want to say just advertisements like that, like, really reflect on people's lives. Like, they
Yep.
really make them think that's how it is.
Yep.
But it's also probably to do with how they were raised. But some kids were literally like, oh, you're the women, here's a broom, clean up the shop. And I was like, no, you clean up the shop.
Yep. So it happens in the workplace. It happens, and you know what? And I know there's no such thing as reverse racism or reverse sexism, but I will tell you this: that there is racism and there is sexism, right? And sexism does happen toward men as well. Like if I had a nickel for every time that I was in a workplace where a woman would call me honey, or oh, you're like, if I say something, a colleague of mine would say something like, this doesn't happen at work, not at where I work now, okay, but where other places where he's, oh, you're so cute, you don't know you don't know anything about cooking. I was a head chef for the fanciest restaurant in Rochester, New York. Like, I was a cook for 13 years. I know heck of a lot more than most people, right? But just simply because I'm a man, I can't possibly know. So it goes, everybody we're all treating each other like crap. You know who treats women the worst? Women.
Yep.
Yes.
The problem is, when women treat women poorly, women don't have authority. Women don't have power, or at least I should say perceived power. So we can say, yeah, women treat women worse, but what does it mean? Nothing, because hear me out. Hear me out. It means something. Okay, I pull back on that. Right? I told you, I get upset about things like sexism, racism, ageism. I get very, very heated about it. Okay, so, but because men typically hold authority and power, that's where it actually has the greatest impact. That's where it has the worst effect on women. What women do is they damage their self-worth often, right? What men do is they damage their self-worth and their ability to support themselves and to educate themselves and to just live happily, you know? Anyway, sorry. So gender stereotypes are particularly pervasive in advertising imagery. Women are depicted as dependent, right? Men, I will build the house, I will mow the lawn, I will do the outside chores, right? So we have what are called gender roles. These are societal beliefs, such as those conveyed by media and other sources, regarding how men and women are expected to behave. So when it comes to roles, it's about expectations. So ads depiction of female bodies, the images of unrealistic thinness. This is associated with body dissatisfaction, eating disorders, low self-esteem, and depression. Some evidence for a causal link between media images and body self-image, right? So ads depiction of male bodies. Men now are beginning to come under the same pressure to achieve ideal bodies. They used to be, a lot of magazines used to be targeting women. Now they're targeting both men and women. Men's Health, Maxim, and it's all these jacked up dudes. And it's making, you know, males feel bad too. Okay. So the percentage in the y-axis, the percentage shown in the dependent role in advertising in the United States in 81, the United States in 89, 97, and then they look at different countries. And you can see that in the United States in 1981, the women were in the blue, and I know this is whatever, but the women in the blue are in advertising depicted as the dependent role 75% of the time, whereas men, it's like 10, right? But then it went down and women went up, men went up. And then in the United States, there was a movement. So they showed basically there was no dependence for men, essentially, and a little dependence for women. In Mexico, right? Mexicans have a very interesting respect for women. They have a matriarchal system. Denmark, they're just equal. They just like people being equal. Everybody's dependent on one another. It's a socialist country, right? France, everybody's equal. Hong Kong, right? And Portugal, these is where we have that marital silence. Okay. The woman as the mother and cook, right? Okay, so culture in advertising. In Western cultures, the ads will stress independence, right? We are an individualistic culture, right? You can stand out. It's easy when you have the right shoes. But in Eastern cultures, the ads stress interdependence, working with each other, identifying yourselves as a member of a group and valuing that. The shoes for your family. Ads more persuasive when they match the thinking style of the target audience, of course. So in Western cultures, they may base attitudes more on individuality and self-improvement, whereas in Eastern cultures, they base their attitudes more on their standing in a social group. So how do we resist these persuasive messages? This is for your tool belt, your toolbox. I said this last time, and I saw Corey nod when I mentioned it. Attitude inoculation. Give small doses of the opposition's argument at the very beginning of yours. This way, when they come out and they say, yeah, I was going to say, it means less. It's less impactful. It's no longer novel. It's not something that's going to go, I never thought of it. Oh, I did think of it when the other one said that. They said it was not going to be a big deal. So now I don't think it's a big deal. So what am I saying? Remember, if you want to influence someone, start with, yeah, I understand that there can be this sort of belief, and there are people who support that, and there's evidence that supports it. However, this is the alternative explanation. So I'm giving a little bit of the other side first, so when the other side comes out, you've already said it, and it means less. Being alert to product placement. Advertisers increasingly place messages about their products in shows. I remember when ET came out and Reese's Pieces were a huge thing. Reese's Pieces, I mean, it even changed me. Once I watched ET, I was like, dang, I like Reese's Pieces. In fact, I remember my first grade year, the first day of school, you know, you all get your new backpacks and stuff like that. I didn't get a backpack. I got like a book bag with a handle or whatever, and it was a Reese's Pieces like package, like just a giant one with handles. And I loved it.
You still love it.
I still, if I wish I had it, but you know what? I'm gonna look on eBay for that. That's one of the things I do. I don't look for like new stuff and like, you know, obviously right? Look at my phone.
You like that vintage stuff?
Oh my God, I love vintage.
There's a vintage store. I'm sorry to interrupt. There's a new vintage store in Plattsburgh. If you like vintage clothing, I would definitely check it out.
I mean, I don't really. Yeah, I guess vintage clothing. But let me show you something. I'm gonna show
I'm
you.
excited.
This is part of my dining room. Okay. Now, so Halloween's a big thing in my house.
Yes.
She makes it a big deal for me, right? These are my motionettes. That's about $2,000 worth of motionettes right there. It took me years and years to collect those. I'm missing one for that collection. Can you see it? Okay.
Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah, and so what they do is they light up and they move, right? I'm missing the ghost. By the way, if you can find the ghost of Witch Time Motionette, I'll give you a $200 finding fee. Trust me, you won't find it. And you guys, listen, that's in recording. You have that. That's a recording. So that's evidence.
So if we find it, then
Yep. Yep. If you find it and if it's able to be
looking.
sold, don't just show me a picture of one because I can find pictures. But if you can find one and it's actually for sale, I'll give you $200 just for finding it. Okay. And then so I also collect vintage costumes. See them?
Yeah.
When they were in the old box and stuff.
those are sick.
And so I have other motionettes down here. They're from a different collection.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this one, last thing I'm gonna show you. Watch. This is what I was talking about. The Reese's Pieces bag. Okay. So this thing, that thing right there. Can you see that little thing there, little haunted house?
Mhm.
Okay. When I grew up, my mom she's the one that got all of us boys into Halloween, but my mom was an avid decorator for all holidays, right? And so,
Jared,
so
is Ghost Motionette a pumpkin head?
no,
No.
no, that's a Telco brand. That's a good
Okay.
question. I should clarify which one it is. That's true. Okay, so the Ghost Motion.
You're already looking.
For the,
Yeah, I'm broke. I need
So-
money.
Right. So the Ghost Motionette, and that's a promise if it's for sale. The Ghost Motionette is made by the company Witch Time, and they produced the line in 1989. And the Ghost Motionette is 22 inches tall, and it's all white with black eyes and like a smile, and it has chains that connects its arms, and it's holding a pumpkin. Yeah.
Spooky.
Okay.
I'm
So anyway,
on.
that tiny little thing, it stands about 8 inches tall. I spent $50 on that thing because I just wanted to have it. Because I remember when I was a little kid, I used to stare at it because it had the little light in it, a little tea light in it, and I used to just stare at it, and I used to pick the stickers off of it, and I was so like whatever, and so it was like basically all gray and this plastic molded thing, but I loved it so much. Coincidentally, I just showed my brother Jacob a picture of that, and he's like, "Where did you get that?" And I just found one for him, and it's $75. Anyway,
Is that what it is?
mine was only 50. No, that's not it. That's Telco. It's a Witch Time brand, and look at it's holding a skull. It's got to hold a pumpkin. Okay, hold on.
I'm just frantically looking for this.
Yeah. So advertisers increasingly place message. Okay, so Reese's Pieces. Seinfeld did it for no. What's that singing show? The singing show.
American Idol. Oh, The Masked Singer.
American Idol.
Oh,
You know
that
how
one
they
too.
were all having the Coke cups? There.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have to be alert to product placement. When people are forewarned, they analyze what they see and hear more carefully as a result. So if you've got to tell your kids, I'm saying basically. So before kids watch TV or go off to the movies, it's good to remind them they're likely to see things that might change their attitudes. Like, oh, I know the stars they're going to be like focusing on, jujubes or some sort of candy or something like that. So how do we resist peer pressure, right? Peer pressure in adolescence, it operates on values and emotions, right? You want to be liked and you want to be accepted by your peer group, and these are not based in logical arguments. So to make adolescents resistant to attitude change by peer pressure, you have to use, here it is, attitude inoculation that focuses on inoculating against emotional appeals. We don't care about that. Okay, that's it. So what I'm going to do now, stop sharing. I'm going to stop recording, I think.